and millions of accelerators and programs to help startups. In that notion, Israel is even better than Silicon Valley because there are so many opportunities to support startups in the early stage startups and founders. The question is, I can tell you that Israel is like everybody. The tension is so high, culturally, historically, security-wise. It's a lot. People are focusing on so many different, chazitot. Yeah, exactly.
This gentleman asked a very important question.
Yeah.
I'd like to follow it up, and that is that I recently learned that the 3 countries that are most active trying to get engaged with the startup nation are China, number 1, Japan, number 2, and South Korea, number 3.
Interesting.
If they're there searching for partnerships for technology, that's partnerships in technology that are not going to be tied to the United States. It's going to be tied to China.
Right.
China is not our friend.
Right.
And yet Israel is going to be creating a powerful source of new business for Israel, where America has nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Right.
So what about that? I mean, how do we deal with
I think that's a question for policymakers in the government side, which I think it's a really, really good question. I think from the point of view of founders, they will go where money takes them. If they want to grow their business, I have 3 startups from my last delegation that raised funds in Asia from Chinese and Japan, from China and Japan, and then they came here, and now they have collaborations with Kim Kardashian, for example. So, it's a really strong, brand to be aligned with, and so it doesn't necessarily say that if you got funded by the Chinese companies, that you will not be able to work in America. It's not. I'm sure that they will be happy to work in America. The question is, who would be the first to have their hands on?
That's the question. And as the Chinese are on the front lines,
right.
Also in many cases, democratic nations.
Right.
So what is the startup nation going to be doing for those who compete with America more so than anybody else?
That's a good question. You have any answer for that? I don't know what the policy makers do. I think on a private level, founders are looking for funding, and I don't think they're being, pushed out of the U.S. They're being funded, but they're not committing to stay out of the U.S. So the products will reach here at the end. So
I'm not so sure China is our enemy.
No, not ours, but
Is it American?
Americans. I don't know.
I mean, it's a question.
China is nobody's friend.
China,
that's the point.
That is the point. And of course, our president has been lulled into a state of euphoria because the Chinese leader has hypnotized him into thinking by complimenting him.
Right. Well, yeah, that's. I think maybe we should look at it as a, international village. We are trying to put the best products for consumers, and does it matter if the consumers are American or Chinese or Israelis or trying to?
It sure does. It sure does, because we're in a major battle with the Chinese for economic dominance in the world.
Right.
And if we continue to help them, as Israel continues to help them, it's not necessarily in America's best interest.
Right. Well, I have very little experience with that, but I like what I said, that the founders that I know that raised funds in China are very happy to work in the U.S. It's not, constraining them in any way. So, do you know anything else about that issue?
How many
Thank you.
delegations have you picked up up to now?
3 delegations.
About relationships with them once they go back? I mean,
Oh,
is it an ongoing
you should.
relation, or?
Yeah, it's an ongoing relation. First of all, we have a Facebook group called We Act with 1,500 founders already, and we help them with, conferences and panel seats. Everybody who needs a female a female panelist or correspondent. I said that we have. First of all, we have a community.
500.
It's 50 founders came in 3 delegations, and we had around 300 candidates for all three together, and we have 1,500 members in our We Act Facebook page, which aims to make everything accessible. Like if Y Combinator, the biggest accelerator in the world, the best leading accelerator, if they start a new branch, I want the Israeli community to know. And if we have a big conference coming up and I can get as many women as I can as panelists, I will make sure that happens. So I want to see women sit at panels. I don't want to ever see any more panels with all male speakers. That's just horrible. And I'm happy to help anyone. Just met a cybersecurity conference organizer here 2 days ago, and I told him, if you need female speakers to your conference, just one WhatsApp and you have a list.
It's interesting that an Israeli woman entered this field and not an American woman, for instance.
You think what?
It doesn't bother them that there are no female in their...
There are. They just don't have the contact. They don't know who they are. I have 3 in the cybersecurity sphere in my last delegation, and I can...
You're not talking only about Israeli women.
Not only
You're talking
Israelis.
about women
No, but
in general.
I don't discriminate by country, but I'm more connected to the Israeli female founders.
You're talking about
but
low percentage of
yeah,
women
that's
in the entire high-tech
right.
community.
Although the Americans are much more aware, you would never see a panel with all white male panel on CNN, for example. It's by law, could be. I don't know. You think it's a law on panels on TV? You think? You don't know. I don't think it's a law.
Proportional representation.
What do you say? What do you think?
You're correct that you won't see a panel, generally speaking, in the U.S.
With no women, right?
However, you will find many organizations that, because they consider that the males are more superstars, will only promote the males in advance.
That's not a question. That's
That's
totally
actually a fact.
right. I'm sure that's
This was
right.
actually a big deal with the GA last week,
Right.
where all their pre-publicity, were centered on high-profile men. And even at the time they were promoting that, there were a fair number, I don't know exactly what the percentage was, but there were a fair number of women, who had already committed to speak, but they didn't have the name power. So, of course, they didn't get into the PR.
Crazy.
So it's two separate problems in the United States.
Right. But at least you're one step, in front of Israel that still has all male panels in most of the conferences and on TV as well. So there are a few groups. There is a group called Supersona with over 2,000 leading women in Israel that would be happy to find any panelist you need. There is also, Saluna.
There was a big issue about it in Israel a few months ago about a panel that had only male.
Yeah,
and then Facebook, many women groups were involved. I'm in such a group.
I was one of them,
לדעת הפרקליטות ששם זה מתחיל להיות הפוך.
כן, נכון. You know why that is? Because the salaries, it's only, הם אומרים שזה כאילו משכורת שנייה בבית, פרקליטות זה משכורת שנייה בבית, אז הם יכולים, רק נשים יכולות לכאורה להרשות לעצמם להיות שם.
Lots of organizations, once the salaries go, and then the more women entering, and
The salaries go down. Right.
That was in education, not in medicine.
Yeah, it's very sad.
The message for me from the words that you've spoken today is that one person, one determined person, can make a huge difference. And you've done that.
Thank you so much.
It's your credit that you've been able to do that, what you set out to do, and apparently you're well on track to being highly successful at doing what you set out to do.
Thank you.
It's really nice to hear.
Thank you so much. Wow. I'm humbled. I'm just, when I came here, I could choose, I thought to myself, I can choose who would I want to help the most. And I thought, I went through this and I have millions of friends, not millions, but a few friends who have been through this as well. You're a wife, you're a mother, and then you have a startup, For friends who said, I have 2 kids and a startup. And you're trying to grow your business, and most of the odds are against you because most of the investors are male. Sometimes they don't even face the problem that you're trying to solve. The odds of you being funded is so slim, and getting your product out is just so hard to do. So I thought if there was one group of people I would like to be their only supporter, that would be that group. So I'm happy.
What's the culture in Israel with regard to women in business?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. It's not better than here, unfortunately. I think, we can see that with sexual harassment right now. Women are much more, it's much more willing to come out and share the stories. In Israel, I was approached by so many media representatives to share any story I know about the investment industry harassing female founders. Nobody was willing to speak because blaming the founder, blaming the korban, victim, blaming the victim. Thank you. Sorry about that. Blaming the victim is so strong in Israel. You would never want to be affiliated with that story. She is the one who came out with. She's to blame. She was probably doing something wrong. What was she wearing, and what did she say, and what? I can tell you that in my previous work, I had to present the company to a Russian wealthy guy. He didn't speak a word of English. He had a translator with him, and I did the presentation in English. And at the end of the presentation, he asked the translator to ask me for a date. And the founder of the company came to me and said, "You know what? To my daughter, that would never have happened. It's like it's your fault that you were being asked on a date right now." And I didn't Yeah. In Israel, in the previous company, not the last one I used to work with, one before that. And he said it was probably something that you said that made him feel comfortable to do that. That's the culture. It's my responsibility, and I was doing something wrong. And I'm sure that's the culture in Israel. Women are afraid to come out and share their stories because they know that they're going to be blamed for that. I'm hoping this. I'm sure that
It's changing nowadays.
Exactly. That's from, yeah.
As you speak, it's changing.
Exactly. That was 10 years ago. I'm sure that maybe today he would have done things different.
In the last 2 weeks, it's
The
been
Me
changed.
Too
In the last 2 weeks. It's a big change.
It's a big change.
Yeah.
It's a radical change.
It's an important
It's a radical change.
revolution.
It's one of the few quick revolutions that actually succeeded.
Right. Let's see what happens at the end of it. נכון.
This is really an opportunity for Israel to make a positive change in the culture, as is happening here in the United States.
Right.
It's happening every single day, every time you pick up the papers. There's another congressman there's a Jewish guy, by the way.
Right.
Who was, I think, Al Franken, who was accused of...
Even Jewish?
Yes.
Wow.
Even Jewish. So, Israel has an opportunity now to climb aboard this issue, and if they have a will to do it. But I don't know if they do.
Well, the one advantage that Israel does have is being small. I mean, it's to be blamed for every other issue.
Right.
But for social changes, being a small country.
Is an advantage. I certainly hope so. I think the culture is ready for a change, but we will have to see.
Men need help.
Yeah, I guess.
No, serious.
Yeah. There are a lot of articles coming right now, and the title is "How Not to Be an Asshole in the Office."
Yes.
Wow, help guide the guys how not to be. But it's a good revolution, It's a year ago, just a little over a year ago, the founder of the managing partner of Sequoia Capital, which is one of the leading VCs in the U.S., said on stage that he really wants to have a woman partner, but there just aren't any. He couldn't find any, and everybody was so angry at this statement that in the past year they hired 3. So they have 3 female founders right now. And I met him in a coffee place in Cafe Venezia in Palo Alto, and I told him I'm bringing a delegation from Israel, and he was one of the first investors of House, which is worth $4 billion right now. I just told you about the female founder. Adita Tarko is the founder of House, and he was one of the first investors. And he said to me, "Oh, that's great. Bring the delegation. We would love another Adita Tarko." So you have to create the change. You have to have public pressure to create significant decision-making, around it. And then you have to have good founders to lead the way to others and make the investment industry, really understand that there is a lot of opportunity and they should pay attention and, tap into that.
You told me earlier that Facebook is a Jewish company. Everybody's Jewish. There are many Jews in general or in the high-tech industry.
Do you know? I don't know. I don't think there is a... Well,
Probably there aren't any...
נתניהו אמר
Yeah,
למודי
that's-
שמסביבים במסדרונות שומעים הודית וישראל
נכון. Yeah, there are a lot of Israelis in
נתניהו אמר את זה, זה מטיל ספק גדול.
במהימנות של הדברים. Well, Facebook, I just mentioned Facebook because we know Mark Zuckerberg is Jewish and he even posts his, candle lighting on Friday evening and on Shabbat. And we know Sheryl Sandberg is Jewish. We know David Marcus is Jewish. Like the 3 top executives in Facebook are Jewish. I don't think it's like a policy. I don't think
No,
it's...
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's one of the best companies culturally wise because it makes all the employees very much aligned with the company's goal, which is to do good, as they say, is to bring more people together. They had a statement saying, make the world closer, make the world more open and connected, and they changed it recently to something about communities, and they are making a lot of effort in building communities. And people say that the reason for that is what just happened with the election, that the country is so separated and divided that Facebook is had put
Trying
as
to make amends.
trying to make amends and trying to find common ground between different groups. So they have a lot of effort focused on finding common ground and making communities matter and make people meet face to face once they are on a community, and there's a lot of...
התנאי שהאלגוריתם שלהם עושה הפוך, הוא גורם לימנים לראות דעות ימניות, לשמאלים לראות דעות שמאלניות.
נכון.
בסוף כולם מזנים אחד את השני, ודווקא, יודע מה?
האלגוריתם שלהם...
נכון. אז אני חושב, if I could just learn from what I've heard from 2-3 weeks ago, they are trying to find ways to amend that, to find ways to bring people closer together, even if they don't see eye to eye in most subjects, I think.
So what's your next project?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, so as I'm focused on...
After you know that you've made a landmark, what's your next project?
Because I'm focused on the goal of supporting diversity in the ecosystem, I'm looking for the right platform to do that from. So I was approached by a few very interesting people to start a fund, but funds usually invest in like 6 startups a year. That's not a big impact, unless you try to be like fund of funds and maybe impact other funds to do the same. But I'm looking for the right platform to bring more women to the table. You have to be very proactive about the reasons that keep them out of the decision-making cycle.
Much younger?
Exactly. So the reasons are, it varies. It starts with STEAM, with science at school. I know I pushed my daughter to go to robotics Lego class, and she did the Lego and didn't care about the robotics so much. But it's, I asked her principal to look into how they teach robotics. Maybe they teach it in a way that relates more to guys than to girls, and they should check the methods that they teach it with. So it needs a lot of thinking, and you have to see what's the process that created the problem, and so it could be anywhere between. Well, once I have this shared office space, it can be a club for professionals to support female founders. It could be investors or lawyers or whatnot, other experts, and it could be an agency, it could be a fund. It's a really good question. I'm looking into it. Any ideas would be embraced. תודה, איזה כיף היה. היה ממש כיף.
היה ממש מעניין, תודה רבה.
היה ממש כיף. כל שאלה תרגישו חופשי, אני אתן לכם כרטיסי ביקור ואני זמינה תמיד. בסדר? ואני אנסה...
קבלנו שני בבוקר.
אני צריכה לסגור את זה עם הפייסבוק, אבל חוץ מזה זה סגור. בכיף. כיף. Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'll give you a card.